I said a single word, what do you expect this TED Talk to be about? Be honest. And what do you expect my brother to be wearing behind that curtain? And if we weren't on the TEDx stage and we were in front of you, what is it that you'd expect that we do? Well, expectation is everywhere. We expect to be married. According to a poll by Pew Research Center, 69% of those between the ages of 18 and 25 want to be married. We expect to make 6 figures. And research from Empower suggests that's by the age of 35. We even measure life itself through life expectancy. And what do you expect that number to be?
Depends on your zip code, honestly.
Not today. Not right now. Well, if you're in the United States, we can expect to live 78.4 years before you kick the bucket. There's even a TEDx expectation. Here we are on TEDxGary, and the X in this case stands for greatness, an expectation. There's an expectation that we'd be great, or otherwise we wouldn't be invited up here, I'd imagine. Expectation is everywhere. Expectation shapes how we move through space and how space moves around us. But here's the issue. When expectation is inherited instead of imagined, well then it limits what we think is possible. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I walked into court, early, ready, confident, and before I could even say a word and sit down, the bailiff pointed at me and said, "Defendant, have a seat." Now, defendant is the one accused of a crime in the court of law, and I was the attorney. That's what I call a visual expectation, an assumption born before a word is even spoken. And that day, I inherited expectation, and it had walked in the door even before I had.
I too know that feeling. I remember in medical school, I had a patient encounter where I walked into the room, the white coat, stethoscope on, and as soon as I did, he immediately started rattling off his breakfast order. Expectation isn't just an idea, it's an image. It determines how much space people believe that you deserve. So how did we get here? Because expectation can limit you, but mentorship can maximize you.
So let's take things back a little bit, where it all started. We grew up in a home where silence was sacred, but legacy was loud.
With 2 brothers sharing 1 bedroom and 1 bathtub, apparently, sharing 1 dream at a time. But that space wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual, generational.
Our roots, they blossomed from right here in Gary, Indiana, where expectations said we wouldn't make it this far, where nearly 1 in 3 residents live below the poverty line, and less than 15% go off to get college degrees, where expectation is survival, not a doctoral degree.
But we had parents who dared to expect more.
Our mom, she was born right here in Gary, and she went on to get her doctorate in education, and she expanded the very image of what success looked like for us, a baseline of expectation.
And on top of that, our father, he mentored us through example and discipline. He taught us that manhood wasn't about dominance, but dependability. And that integrity wasn't something that was merely spoken, but rather shown. And every promise that he made sure to keep.
And through him, we learned the most powerful expectation that you can place and give a child, and that's the image of consistency.
And because of our parents, we had the confidence to become doctors in our own field, 1 in law and 1 in medicine.
I mean, our names even house the expectation. My name, Masayoshi, that means justice. And now I fight for justice and equity in every single room that I enter.
And my name, Kenichi means wise one. And now I use my wisdom and acquired knowledge to heal and to treat every patient that I encounter.
So we didn't inherit wealth. It would have been nice. But what we did inherit was expectation. And expectation, it wasn't a burden, it was a blueprint.
And today we stand before you, one lawyer, one doctor, two brothers, one mission, to reimagine space and expectation for humanity.
So let's enter the world of corporate law. In corporate law, expectation is currency. Deals are built on it, contracts codified. But what happens when expectation that's inherited isn't written down? I entered law school with the weight of legacy in search of representation. I mean, from childhood, I was even expected to be excellent, and sometimes also invisible. It's also precedent in the legal industry to close billion-dollar deals. I've had my fair share, but not to open doors for individuals like myself. I even learned that expectation can be weaponized, but it can also be redefined. So, in boardrooms, I began asking, who's not at this closing table, and whose opinion and story isn't being valued in this here valuation? Because when expectation is reclaimed, it becomes a tool of justice, not just for those shareholders, but for soul holders. So let me tell you when that truth became real for me. It was the second year of my law school career when I decided to go to the Black Entertainment Sports Law Association annual conference. And I didn't know what to expect. I just knew I needed to see something different. So when I walked onto the resort in beautiful Cabo, Mexico, and it was the first time I was out the country, I was already dreaming at new heights because I was surrounded by brilliance that looked like me. Lawyers, 5, 10, 15 years, all black, ahead of me, representing artists, athletes, entertainment executives, negotiating deals for names and companies that I had only seen on television to that point. Netflix, ESPN, Universal, to name a few. They were doing the very things that felt impossible for someone like me with feet planted from roots from Gary, Indiana. And it was the first time, though, that I didn't feel like an exception. I felt like an extension of legacy, of excellence, and what was possible. In that moment, mentorship, it wasn't just a concept. It became real. And that conference, it didn't just expand my network. It expanded my expectation. And then there's something happened that I'll never forget. I won a $2,500 scholarship. And, close your ears, Dad, but the reason why that was so pivotal was because I actually went into debt going to that conference. I put all my trip expenses on a credit card. Dad told me not to do that, but I did it anyway. And as if that wasn't enough, the CEO, Deborah Lee of BET, Black Entertainment Television, when she heard of my story and found out who I was, she doubled my scholarship. And she doubled that scholarship not because of what I had already done, but because she believed in what I could become. That moment lit something in me. It was the moment that really ignited and showed me the power of mentorship. The same way she invested in my future, I knew I had to invest in others. So that's when I realized mentorship, it isn't just guidance, it's ignition. And it's the spark that turns expectation into action. And from that moment, I made it my mission that every single law student and lawyer coming after me would never have to ask if there was room for them. Because I had seen the room, and it was ours to fill.
Wasn't just possible, but it was real. I had that exposure, that opportunity something that I'd never experienced before. I saw proof that people were willing to pour into me, to invest into my success, to remind me that my experience was valid and that I wasn't alone. That room gave me that access, and it gave me exposure and a glimpse of what could be. So I worked with my brother and created the Med School Mentor to create that kind of space for students and for stories and for youth told that they didn't belong in white coats. Because access isn't just about opportunity, it's about that exposure, that chance to see someone who looks like you and think, that could be me. Space, when sacred, can become healing. And that's the difference between treating a symptom and honoring a cure for the soul. Every patient interaction that I have, I ask, what expectations have been placed on this body, and how can I make space for something more humane?
So law and medicine, they don't traditionally share stages, but they share systems. Systems that weren't built for people like us. We've walked into a room that's not built for us. We've been underestimated, and we've even had our humanity questioned.
And yet, we've built new rooms. We've redefined the measure. And we've created spaces where expectation isn't the ceiling, it's the floor. We've learned something really simple but profound, that community requires unity, and that we may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. We are not anomalies, we are architects of a future where space is sacred and expectation is liberating, where medicine doesn't just treat illness, it restores humanity.
And where contracts, they don't just protect capital, they protect community. Where access is built through exposure, experience, and most importantly, a life lived fully. Where success isn't just transactional, it's transformational. And where the image of success is so diverse that everyone can see themselves in it. Because again, you can't be what you can't see. But mentorship can help everyone see the possibilities more clearly.
And it all began with Roots and Gary, where expectation can be limited, but the legacy is loud. But our parents showed us that dreaming big was the bare minimum. Our mother's doctorate, our father's discipline, their examples together redefined what was possible.
And tonight, we don't want you to just listen to our story. We want you to reimagine yours. So, no matter where you are in life, whether you're 16, you're starting to learn how to drive, and you're searching for your starting line, or maybe you're 25, yelling, screaming inside to be seen. Maybe you're 40, and you're also trying to rebuild what you once knew. Or heck, you can even be 65 and wondering if your best work is behind you. I assure you, there's a mentor out there waiting for you. Someone ready to hand you all the tools, resources, access, motivation, and encouragement so that you can move your expectation forward. Because mentorship, it doesn't end when we arrive. It begins when we reach back.
So we challenge you, find that mentor, be that mentor, and when you do, watch how expectation starts to move, how space can expand, and how possibility can multiply, and how humanity can feel just a little more whole.
So we want to leave you with 2 questions. What would you like to do for another person, and what would you like to see and bring out of them as their mentor? And also, what effect do you expect mentorship to have on the rest of your life? Because we expect you to maximize your expectation.
Thank you.
Thank you.